What if I told you that the cure for high blood pressure, the silent killer affecting 1 in 3 Americans, wasn't invented in a lab, wasn't discovered last decade, and wasn't hidden behind a prescription pad? What if the answer was already written down thousands of years ago in the oldest book in the world? Most people think of the Bible as a spiritual text, and it is. But it's also a record of how people lived, what they grew, and what they used to keep themselves alive without hospitals, without insurance, and without a single synthetic compound. The plants they traded, the roots they crushed, the leaves they steeped, those things protected their hearts. And modern science is now confirming what those ancient healers already knew. Today, I'm going to show you 20 of those plants. Real plants, with real science behind them, and a history that goes all the way back to biblical times. We're going through all 20, ranked from impressive to absolutely extraordinary. Most of them are hiding in plain sight. Some are in your spice cabinet right now. You'll want to stick around for number 15. The Israelites carried this plant through 40 years in the desert, and it turns out it was doing something very specific to their cardiovascular system the entire time. And number 18 has a story almost nobody knows. It was traded on the same roots as gold in the ancient world, and researchers now know exactly why it was worth that much. We're going from impressive all the way to absolutely incredible. Stay until the end. Before we dive in, hit subscribe if you believe in understanding what nature actually offers, not just what we're told to buy. We post deep dives like this every week, and I think you'll want to be here for every one of them. All right, let's get into it. Here are 20 biblical plants that support healthy blood pressure, ranked from impressive to absolutely incredible. Number 1. Garlic, the blood pressure warrior of the Exodus. Numbers 11.5. The Israelites wandering in the desert cried out for garlic by name, not for flavor, but because their bodies had spent generations in Egypt where garlic was already used as medicine. The compound responsible is allicin, released when you crush a raw clove, and over 20 clinical trials show it reduces systolic blood pressure by 8 to 9 points, the same target as some low-dose medications. 2 raw cloves in the morning, or aged garlic extract if the taste is too intense. Pharmaceutical companies can't patent a clove of garlic. And that's exactly why this conversation moved elsewhere. Garlic is the prescription that was written 3,000 years before your doctor ever had a notepad. The next plant appears over 200 times in Scripture, and what its leaf does to your arteries might surprise you. Number 2. The olive tree, the ancient heart protector. Deuteronomy 8:8 lists the olive among the 7 species that define the Promised Land. Oil for lamps, for cooking, for healing. The leaf contains a compound called oleuropein that relaxes the muscles around your blood vessels and slows a heart working too hard. A study in phytomedicine found olive leaf extract brought systolic pressure down by 11 points over 8 weeks, comparable to a common blood pressure medication. Look for supplements standardized to at least 17% oleuropein. We reduced the olive to a cooking oil and left the most powerful part of the tree behind. It hasn't changed in 3,000 years. We just forgot how to use all of it. Now, a fruit so celebrated in the Bible, it was carved into the pillars of Solomon's temple. And what's inside it works on blood pressure from 2 directions at once. Number 3. Pomegranate, the fruit the spies brought back from the Promised Land. Numbers 13:23. When Moses sent spies into Canaan, they came back carrying pomegranates as proof of its richness. Embroidered on priestly robes and carved into sacred architecture, pomegranate reduces arterial stiffness and acts as a natural ACE inhibitor, the same mechanism behind one of the most prescribed blood pressure drug classes today. A study in clinical nutrition found daily pomegranate juice reduced systolic pressure by 5% in 2 weeks. 8 ounces of pure juice daily, or extract capsules for those managing sugar. It got reduced to a juice flavor and forgotten as medicine. The spies carried it home as proof the land was worth fighting for. Turns out, it was worth more than they realized. Next plant, same verse. But its cardiovascular secret lives in the skin that most people throw away. Number 4. The grapevine, the biblical blood vessel repair system. From Noah's vineyard after the flood to the sacred vines of Deuteronomy 8:8, grapes ran through every layer of biblical life. The cardiovascular power is in the skin. Resveratrol signals blood vessel walls to relax and protects the endothelium, the inner lining where high blood pressure begins its destruction. Research in the American Journal of Hypertension found grapeseed extract reduced systolic pressure by 6 points and diastolic by 3. Dark grapes with the skin on, grapeseed extract supplements, or unsweetened grape juice. What you want to avoid is any processing that strips the skin. The alcohol debate hijacked the conversation and separated the cardiovascular benefits from the plant itself. The medicine was always in the skin, not the bottle. Next, a plant most people associate with fabric, not medicine. But the ancient world knew what was hiding in its seeds. Number 5. Flax, the forgotten cardiovascular seed of the ancient world. Isaiah 42:3 references the flax wick. So common in ancient Israel it was used as the benchmark for fragility. But long before it became textile, flax was food, ground, and consumed across the ancient Near East. It contains 3 cardiovascular weapons in one tiny package: omega-3 fatty acids, lignans, and soluble fiber, each reducing blood pressure through independent mechanisms. A meta-analysis of 15 trials found consistent reductions in both systolic and diastolic pressure, with lignans showing specific activity against arterial stiffness in people over 50. 1 to 2 tablespoons of ground flaxseed daily in oatmeal or yogurt. Ground fresh because the oils oxidize quickly. We turned our medicine into linen and left the seeds behind. The same seed that clothed the ancient world was protecting their hearts the whole time. Now a plant from one of the most famous verses in Psalms, used for sacred purification, and quietly active on your arterial walls. Number 6. Hyssop, the purification herb that cleans more than the spirit. Psalm 51:7. David writes, "Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean." And throughout Leviticus and Numbers, hyssop bundles were used in ritual cleansing from Passover to the purification of lepers. In the ancient world, sacred and medicinal were rarely separate categories. Hyssop contains rosmarinic acid and flavonoids that reduce oxidative stress in vascular tissue, protecting blood vessel walls from the damage that makes them stiff and reactive. Hyssop tea, 1 teaspoon of dried herb steeped 10 minutes, is the safest and most historically accurate approach. The moment a plant becomes purely ceremonial in the modern imagination, its practical applications disappear from memory. David may have known more about what he was asking for than we give him credit for. The next plant was burned in temples and carried by kings. And the reason it commanded that price wasn't only spiritual. Number 7. Frankincense, the sacred resin that calms the cardiovascular system. Exodus 30:34 includes frankincense in the sacred incense formula given to Moses, and Egyptian pharaohs imported it from the Horn of Africa at enormous cost. In every ancient civilization that touched the trade routes, frankincense occupied a place of extraordinary value that doesn't happen by accident. Boswellic acids, its active compounds, specifically inhibit the enzyme that triggers chronic arterial inflammation, the slow, sustained kind that gradually raises blood pressure over years. Studies on Boswellia serrata extract show significant reductions in CRP and support for healthy cortisol regulation, addressing stress-related hypertension from the inside out. Look for supplements standardized to 60% boswellic acids. We turned it into a candle scent and stopped asking what it actually did. It was worth its weight in gold. And the cardiovascular science suggests that valuation was entirely rational. Next, a spice from Proverbs associated with the chambers of royalty, whose active compound relaxes your blood vessels the same way it perfumed ancient palaces. Number 8. Cinnamon, the spice of kings that regulates your blood. Proverbs 7:17 describes a bed perfumed with cinnamon and myrrh, the scent of wealth and desire. And Israelite priests used it in sacred anointing oil, imported along trade routes that crossed the entire known world. Cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity and directly relaxes blood vessel smooth muscle. And a meta-analysis of 9 randomized trials found it significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic pressure, with the strongest effects in people with pre-diabetes. Half a teaspoon of Ceylon cinnamon daily in coffee or oatmeal. Ceylon, not cassia, for long-term daily use. We put it in desserts and buried the medicine under sugar. The kings of the ancient world perfumed their chambers with it. Their bodies knew exactly what it was doing. Now, a plant so connected to healing in the Bible that a prophet used it to save a king's life. Number 9. The fig tree, the tree of peace and a powerful cardiovascular ally. In 1 Kings 4:25, peace is described as every man under his vine and fig tree. And in Isaiah 38:21, The prophet Isaiah prescribes a fig poultice to heal King Hezekiah when he was near death. The fig was medical, not just symbolic. Figs are among the highest plant sources of potassium, the mineral that directly counterbalances sodium and lowers blood pressure, with 1 cup of dried figs delivering over 900 milligrams, roughly 20% of the daily target for blood pressure management. 3 to 4 dried figs daily as a snack or fresh when in season. They got categorized as a dessert food and the medicinal frame was lost entirely. A king's life was saved with a fig poultice. Your blood pressure might not need quite that much drama, but the plant is still ready to help. We've covered 8 plants. Now we move into the ones that surprised me most, starting with a flower so vivid it practically glows, whose clinical trial results are anything but subtle. Number 10. Hibiscus, the scarlet flower of the Nile that rivals medication. Hibiscus has been cultivated in Egypt and the ancient Near East for thousands of years. Consumed as medicinal tea across every culture that shared the ancient trade world the biblical peoples inhabited. Egyptian physicians documented its use, and the Israelites absorbed that knowledge through generations of proximity. It works like an ACE inhibitor, relaxing blood vessel walls and reducing arterial resistance, and a study in the Journal of Nutrition found daily hibiscus tea reduced systolic pressure by 7 points in 6 weeks. A direct comparison study found it nearly as effective as a low-dose captopril prescription. 2 to 3 cups daily of true hibiscus tea brewed from dried calices. In America, it became a decorative flower, something you photograph instead of brew, and an entire medicinal tradition bypassed mainstream awareness entirely. It's the color of blood and it protects the organ that moves it. That's not poetry, that's just what the science found. I want to pause here for just a moment and give you something. Not because I have to, but because if you're the kind of person who watches a video like this all the way through, you deserve more than just inspiration. You deserve something you can actually use. So I put together a companion guide for everything we're covering today. The kind of resource you keep nearby, in the kitchen, in the garden, in the moments when you actually need to know what to do and how to do it. Practical, clear, built for real life, not for a research paper. If you want it, it's waiting for you in the first pinned comment below. No pressure at all. But if you're serious about what we're talking about, I think you'll find it incredibly useful. All right, let's keep going, because we're only halfway through. And the second half of this list is where it gets truly extraordinary. Number 11. Hawthorn apas, the heart tonic that grew in the hills of Canaan. Hawthorn species grew throughout the ancient Near East, the thorny hedgerows of Canaan that the Romans called the quick, a hedge plant that was also a living medicine cabinet whose knowledge traveled across every civilization that inherited it. Hawthorn is arguably the most well-studied plant for cardiovascular support in the herbal tradition. It improves coronary blood flow, strengthens heart muscle efficiency, and directly dilates blood vessels. A systematic review of 14 randomized trials found it significantly effective in reducing hypertension markers, with active compounds showing measurable effects on arterial elasticity and endothelial function. Hawthorn berry extract, 160 to 900 milligrams daily. This is a plant where consistency over months matters more than any single dose. It looks like a thorny inconvenience, and that appearance cost it centuries of recognition. The thorns that protected the flock also had the ability to protect the shepherd's heart. Now a seed so small and ordinary that most people season their food with it daily, without any idea what it's doing to their blood vessels. Number 12. Celery seed, the humble kitchen spice with a remarkable cardiovascular record. Wild celery is native to the Mediterranean and appears in ancient Egyptian medical papyri. Greek physicians used it specifically for kidney and heart conditions, and the seed was recognized across multiple ancient traditions as having direct effects on circulation and fluid balance. It contains a compound called 3N-butylphthalide, one of the most specific natural vasodilators ever identified, relaxing the smooth muscle tissue in artery walls. A clinical study in Natural Medicine Journal found celery seed extract reduced blood pressure by 8 points systolic and 5 diastolic over 6 weeks. 150 milligrams of extract twice daily, or 4 celery stalks as the whole food equivalent. Celery became a diet food, and the medicinal context for the seed simply disappeared from Western awareness. It's been sitting in your spice rack this whole time. You just didn't know what it was doing there. Next plant takes us to Song of Solomon, a garden of perfumed plants, one of which turns out to have measurable effects on the nervous system driving your blood pressure. Number 13. Lavender, the fragrant plant that calms the system that raises your blood pressure. Song of Solomon, Theora 4:14 lists spikenard among the garden's most prized plants, a fragrant species closely related to lavender in the ancient botanical tradition. And across Greek, Roman, and Middle Eastern cultures, the connection between aromatic plants and healing was never metaphorical, it was practical. Stress-induced hypertension is one of the hardest forms to address with diet alone, and lavender works on the autonomic stress response that tells your blood vessels to constrict and your heart to race. A standardized oral lavender preparation called Silexin has been found in clinical trials to reduce anxiety comparable to benzodiazepine medications without dependency risks. And since chronic stress directly drives elevated blood pressure, that pathway is clinically meaningful. Lavender essential oil diffused before sleep, or 1 to 2 teaspoons of dried flowers as tea. The aromatherapy market commercialized it so aggressively that the legitimate nervous system research got buried entirely. The ancient gardens of Song of Solomon weren't just romantic. Someone knew exactly what they were planting. Now, a golden root that traveled the ancient spice routes from Asia all the way to the Mediterranean, and whose cardiovascular research now fills entire cardiology journals. By the time of Solomon's reign, the spice routes connecting India to the Mediterranean were well established, and turmeric was among them. Ayurvedic texts 3,000 years old document its medicinal use, and ancient Hebrew physicians would have had access through trade. Curcumin, its active compound, is one of the most potent natural anti-inflammatory agents ever studied, addressing the chronic low-grade arterial inflammation that silently drives most cases of hypertension. A meta-analysis in Nutrition Journal found curcumin supplementation significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic pressure and improved endothelial function. Pair it with black pepper. Piperine dramatically increases absorption. 1 teaspoon of turmeric with a pinch of black pepper and warm milk is the traditional preparation. It arrived in Western consciousness through the food aisle instead of the pharmacy, so nobody thought to ask what it was actually doing in the body. The gold in the ancient trade routes wasn't just metal, and it turns out both were worth carrying across the world. And now, number 15, the one I mentioned at the beginning. The Israelites carried this plant through 40 years in the desert, and researchers have been studying what it was doing to their cardiovascular system the entire time. Number 15, dandelion, the desert herb of the Exodus that never stopped working. Exodus 12:8 instructs the Israelites to eat the Passover lamb with bitter herbs, maror, and biblical scholars and botanists agree this almost certainly included dandelion and related bitter greens that grew wild throughout the Sinai and Canaan. These weren't symbolic additions. Every plant had a function. Dandelion is one of the most powerful natural diuretics in the plant kingdom, and unlike pharmaceutical diuretics, it replenishes potassium as it removes excess fluid, a combination almost uniquely valuable for blood pressure management. A pilot study confirmed the diuretic effect within 5 hours of consumption, and dandelion leaf contains over 300 milligrams of potassium per cup. It removes what raises blood pressure and replaces what protects the heart. Fresh leaves in salad, leaf tea steeped 10 minutes, or root tincture for more concentrated support. We declared war on dandelions and built an entire lawn care industry around eliminating the most medicinally active plant that grows freely across North America. The Israelites carried it through the desert because they needed it. You might be spraying it with herbicide. Now we start the final stretch. The most powerful plants on this list, beginning with one that quietly does something to your vascular system that has researchers genuinely excited. Number 16. Beetroot, the underground blood pressure solution that ancient Egypt already knew. Beets were cultivated in ancient Egypt and the gardens of Babylon. The Israelites, who lived in Egypt for generations, would have been intimately familiar with them, knowing only that they made people feel better without understanding why. Beetroot is the richest dietary source of inorganic nitrates, which the body converts into nitric oxide, the molecule that signals blood vessel walls to relax and dilate, and whose discovery in the cardiovascular system earned its researchers the Nobel Prize in Medicine. A landmark study in hypertension found 250 milliliters of beetroot juice reduced blood pressure by 10 points within 3 hours. with the effect persisting up to 24 hours. 1 cup of pure beetroot juice daily or roasted beets 2 to 3 times a week. Beets got a reputation problem. Too earthy, too messy. And the pharmaceutical industry had no incentive to remind anyone that a vegetable could do what a pill does. The Nobel Prize compound has been growing underground this whole time, waiting to be taken seriously again. Now we're getting into the really powerful ones. Number 17. Traveling from the ancient world to the cutting edge of cardiovascular research without losing a single step. Number 17. Saffron, the most expensive spice in the world and one of the most powerful cardiovascular agents in nature. Song of Solomon 4:14 names saffron explicitly, karkam in Hebrew, among the most prized plants of the biblical garden, cultivated in ancient Persia and valued at prices accessible only to royalty and priests. Its active compound, crocin, is a powerful antioxidant with specific cardiovascular activity, improving endothelial function, reducing arterial stiffness, and inhibiting ACE through a natural pathway that doesn't carry the side effects of pharmaceutical ACE inhibitors. A randomized controlled trial found saffron supplementation significantly improved blood pressure markers after 8 weeks, and cardiologists studying natural compounds have taken particular interest in it this past decade. A small pinch, about 30 milligrams, steeped in warm water or milk daily, or extract supplement standardized to crocin. Its price made it inaccessible to most, and its value as a colorant dominated the conversation over its medicine. It was the gold standard of the ancient spice world, and it was protecting the hearts of everyone wealthy enough to use it regularly. And now, number 18. Traded on the same roots as gold. And the reason it commanded that price is becoming clearer with every new study. Number 18. Valerian, the ancient root that calms the nervous system beneath your blood pressure. Valerian root was traded throughout the ancient Near East and Mediterranean, known to Greek physicians as pu, used in Roman medicine, recognized across every civilization that the biblical world was intertwined with, as having specific effects on human physiology that nothing else quite replicated. It addresses blood pressure through the autonomic nervous system, shifting the body out of fight or flight and into rest and digest, reducing cortisol, and allowing the cardiovascular system to operate at its natural resting state. Research in phytotherapy research found valerian extract significantly reduced both systolic and diastolic pressure in participants with stress-related hypertension over 4 weeks through GABA-A receptor activity, the same receptors targeted by anti-anxiety medications without the dependency risks. Valerian root tea in the evening, or 300 to 600 milligrams of extract. It got compartmentalized as a sleep supplement, and the blood pressure mechanism was largely overlooked. The ancient world traded it like gold because it gave people something money usually can't buy: genuine rest. And your cardiovascular system runs on exactly that. 2 more. These final 2 are the ones that will stay with you longest, starting with a flower that has been used continuously across every culture that ever touched the ancient world. Number 19. Chamomile, the flower of ancient Egypt, that modern cardiology is rediscovering. Chamomile was so revered in ancient Egypt it was dedicated to Ra, the sun god, and used in the embalming of pharaohs, cultivated across the Mediterranean, and documented in virtually every ancient herbal tradition. The Israelites would have been as familiar with it as we are with aspirin. It contains apigenin, a flavonoid that reduces arterial inflammation, has mild calcium channel blocking properties, the same mechanism as a major class of blood pressure medications, and promotes the parasympathetic nervous state that allows blood vessels to relax. A study in the Journal of Endocrinology and Metabolism found chamomile extract significantly reduced cortisol levels and improved cardiovascular markers in participants with anxiety. 2 to 3 cups of German chamomile tea daily, brewed strong. It became a gentle bedtime tea, and that softness got mistaken for weakness. The Egyptians thought it was divine enough to offer to their gods. You can find it in a tea bag at any grocery store. And now, number 20. The one that has survived every civilization and every attempt to replace it. This final plant is not subtle, and its story ends with something that should make you genuinely angry and genuinely empowered. Number 20. Black seed, the ancient universal healer that modern pharmacology had to reckon with. Isaiah 28:25 references black cumin, quetzalcoatl in Hebrew, and black seed was found in the tomb of Tutankhamun, used in ancient Egypt, ancient Israel, ancient Persia, and throughout the Byzantine world, crossing every cultural boundary of the ancient Near East for 3,000 years with the same conclusion. This plant is extraordinary. Thiomoquinone, its active compound, works through multiple simultaneous pathways: calcium channel blocker, diuretic, vascular antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, and kidney support, all without the side effect profiles that make pharmaceutical alternatives difficult to tolerate long-term. A meta-analysis of 11 randomized controlled trials found it reduced systolic pressure by an average of 7 points and diastolic by 4. And thiomoquinone has since been proposed as a template for developing new cardiovascular drugs. 1 teaspoon of black seed oil daily, mixed into honey for flavor, or capsules if the taste is too intense. It was never forgotten in most of the world. It remained in continuous use across the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. It was forgotten specifically in America because there was no financial incentive to study a plant freely available and culturally documented for 3,000 years. 3,000 years of continuous use, a Nobel-worthy mechanism, less per month than a single copay. The ancient world knew. It just took us a while to catch up. Before I move into the closing, I need to tell you something. You just sat through 20 plants, every single one. And I want you to understand what that means. Because most people don't make it here. Most people click away after the first few and miss everything that makes this list truly remarkable. But you're still here. And I think that says everything about the kind of person you are. Someone who genuinely wants to understand, not just skim the surface and move on. So here's how I want to say thank you. Everything I know about preparing, using, and getting the most out of these plants, I put into a complete practical guide. And right now, for anyone watching who made it to the end of this video, I'm making it available at 20% off. Just use the code FULLVIDEO at checkout. The link is in the first pinned comment below. This isn't a limited time trick. It's not a countdown timer. It's simply my way of honoring the people who actually show up, pay attention, and take this seriously. The code is FULLVIDEO. It's waiting for you in the pinned comment whenever you're ready. If you made it to the end of this video, you now know something that most people don't. These plants didn't disappear because they stopped working. They disappeared because they couldn't be monetized the way a pill can. Because a plant that grows in the ground and costs almost nothing is a very inconvenient thing for an industry built around monthly prescriptions. But the knowledge never left. It was in the text that's been sitting on more bookshelves than any other book in history. It was in the gardens that ancient peoples cultivated with intention, in the trading routes that carried these roots and seeds and resins, because people knew, empirically, experientially, across generations, that they worked. The more you understand about what nature actually offers, the less dependent you become. These 20 plants are proof that the knowledge was always there. You just needed someone to point back to it. Now I want to hear from you. Which plant surprised you the most? The one that rivals ACE inhibitor medications? The ancient spice cardiologists are now actively studying? Or the common weed you've been trying to eliminate from your lawn? Tell me in the comments. Are you team garlic, team black seed, or team something else entirely? Because I genuinely want to know which one you're going to start with. And if this video gave you something real, share it with someone who needs it. A family member, a friend managing blood pressure, someone who deserves to know what we covered today. Subscribe if you haven't already and ring the bell. Because next week we're going deeper into one of the most misunderstood topics in natural health. And you don't want to miss it. I'll see you in the next one.